Every single day, thousands and thousands of Sierra Leoneans walk past Tower Hill. Tower Hill is one of the most famous places in Freetown. It is also one of the most important places in Freetown because this is the place where the parliament is located. And right beside this parliament, you have a certain structure. It is round, short, and it is made of red blocks. It stands there very peacefully. Most Sierra Leoneans have never noticed this particular tower. It is known as the Martello Tower, and there is a very interesting story about this particular tower. The Martello Tower is a monument that has been in Freetown for over 200 years. It is very important in terms of the history of Sierra Leone. But the story of the Martello Tower didn't start here in Freetown. It started thousands and thousands of kilometers away from Africa. It started in Europe. In 1787, Britain was the most powerful empire in the world. And some of the British people started thinking to themselves that the slave trade is actually not a good thing because of religion and some other things best known to them. So they decided that let's cancel slavery. But there was a certain man who was named Henry Spentman. This man had a very ambitious idea. According to history, he said that these Africans must return to a place of which they are familiar with. So, after a lot of discussions, Freetown was chosen. The freed slaves returned back to Freetown and settled here, built a settlement, and everything ended happily ever after. But no, there was a very big problem because this particular land was not empty. The Timi people had lived in this region for several centuries. They had their kings, they had their kingdoms, they had their traditions, their communities, and certain sacred places. When the British people arrived, they came with diplomacy and negotiations and promises of friendship. There was even a very close personal relationship between both sides because it was even said that, according to history, that Henry Smithman got married to one of the king's daughters. But with all of this, there were still problems because I said in one of my videos that the local people believed that they were cheated by the British people. And because of this, there was a whole lot of chaos in this colony, and this new colony struggled for years. Then fast forward to 1794, a very huge disaster struck. The French forces attacked Freetown, and the settlement was burnt down. The buildings were destroyed. The young colony was left in chaos. But the thing is, the British people were actually threatened by this, but they did not leave. Instead, what the British people decided to do was strengthen their security. And this is where the story of the Martello Tower actually begins. In 1805, Governor William Day led a procession up this hill, which was then Wanse Hill, now known as Tower Hill, and he laid the foundation for a new military structure, which is the Martello Tower. The design was simple but very powerful. It was a circular fortress with thick walls, defensive positions, strong facilities, and artillery. Thousands of bricks were laid, and then the Martello Tower was built. The hill eventually became Tower Hill as we all know it now. But there is a very fascinating part in this particular story. This hill was built as a defense mechanism against the local people that were angry and also the French people. But despite all the powers built into this wall, there is no known record of the Martello Tower firing its gun in battle. Not once. For more than 200 centuries, this fortress has stood there silently. Imagine standing on the hills more than 200 years, yet the purpose for which you were actually built for was never used. But the message which the British people sent out to the French people and also to the local people was that we are here and we intend to stay. Then, decades later, the tower itself was transformed because it has never been used as a military fortress. So, in the 19th century, Freetown needed a better water infrastructure, and the old fortress offered an unexpected opportunity. The top of the tower was altered and changed into a water tank. Now, a structure which was originally designed for war had become part of the city's water system. Then, in 1961, that was a very major point in the history of Sierra Leone because of the independence. The Tower Hill became one of the most important political spaces in this particular new nation. The parliament was developed in this particular area, but the old Martello Tower presented a very difficult question. For some, it represented British colonial rule. Another school of thought said that it was an irreplaceable piece of Freetown's history. Eventually, the two parties came to a decision, and it was said that the Martello Tower represents colonial power, but it is also part of the history of the city that eventually became the capital of the independent Sierra Leone. So this is the story of the Martello Tower, and now you know why Tower Hill is named Tower Hill. This is all I have for you today. Kindly like, follow, and leave a comment down below of your opinion. Until next time, I am your favorite Salone Sarah. Bye.